So we're going to look at georeferencing and how we can do that in ArcMap, in ArcGIS 10.1. The good news in ArcGIS 10.1 is that georeferencing has been updated and a lot of new features have been added. But basically it's the same as it's always been with the georeferencing on the fly with the auto adjust and seeing the images warp over our base map. So first we're going to start off with a blank ArcMap, and there's a few basic steps in georeferencing. The first step is adding the base map. So before georeferencing in, like, for example, ArcGIS 8.0, it was very tedious because you had to go and find either internet mapping service or you had to download DOQs to act as your base map. But in this case with ArcMap, we can just add a base map that's going to stream from the ArcGIS server. So I usually like using something like imagery or Bing's map aerials, or sometimes imagery with labels can help out. So I'm going to go with, this time I'm going to go with imagery with labels. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And you're going to see the the world map showing at the Web Mercator projection. In georeferencing, it's very important that your display projection is set to what you want your end product to be. So in our case, we're going to be georeferencing aerial photography from Austin, Texas, and we want our end projection of the data itself to be in the state plane coordinate system for Central Texas. So the second thing you have to do after adding a base map is set your display projection. So I'm just going to my data frame properties, go to my coordinate system. I'm going to navigate here into the projected, and I'm going to find my state plane systems. I'm going to use NAD 83 US feet. I'm using the official projection of the city of Austin. So, and then I'm going to go down to NAD 83 state plane Texas Central. In your case, you'll find whatever projection best fits for you. In general, state plane is really good for aerial photography, and UTM zones is really good for aerial photography. So, but in this case, I'm working with city data, I'm using state plane. If I was working with state data, I'd probably use UTM zones. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to say yes. Now I want to continue, and you should see now the base map should look like a Lambert conformal conic. You can see here the conic. With the center right here at the at Texas, at Austin, Texas. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is go ahead and zoom in into Texas, and I'm going to find Austin. In order to draw a box, like for zooming, what you do is you click with your mouse, and then at one corner you hold that mouse button down, and then you drag it, and it causes this box to be formed, and then anything that's within that box will show up in your next screen. So it's going to automatically zoom to the extent of that box. So we start seeing Austin here with Lady Bird Lake here, and here's downtown Austin. So I'm going to go ahead and do one last zoom on the downtown of Austin. So what I did is I got aerial photography from the city of Austin's webpage. It's not georeferenced, and on their webpage they have an index. So you can see here is an index for aerial imagery from the year 1987. This is the year I'm planning on georeferencing. And if I look here, I'm planning on georeferencing this image here, which is K23. And if I zoom here, I can kind of see from my index map approximately where K23 is. You can see its location. So what I can do now is I can zoom on this area and take my image, my ungeoreferenced image, and put it here. So I'm just going to use this index map to kind of eyeball where it's going to be at. So the next step will be to add my aerial image. So I'm going to hit Add Data, and I'm going to navigate to the folder that contains the aerial photography, which is, in my case, S Drive, Austin Air Photos, and I'm going to be doing 1987. And here's all the images from 1987, and I want to do K23. So I'm going to take K23. There it is. And there's multiple ones. I'm not sure what that's about. I'm just going to go ahead and add all three. of them. So I just click the first one, shift click the last one, and that let me select multiple ones. I'm gonna hit add. So the first error message that I'm gonna get, well, it's not really an error message, it's more of a for your information message, is I get unknown spatial reference. This makes sense because our images do not have spatial reference as of right now. You can see by navigating into the folder where K23 is, there's no associated files with it, it's just the .sid file. You can tell this is georeferenced if it has additional files, like for example here in A20 it has an .aux, .xmls, those have been brought into ArcMap, but if you see a .sdwx like this one, that means it's been georeferenced. In our case of K23, it has not been georeferenced. You can see here just images. So it makes sense that we get this error message. That's what we were trying to do. We want to add spatial reference. So we just go ahead and hit OK. And right now the images don't show up anywhere. They're actually at the origin of the coordinate system. If I right click and zoom the layer, I can see that it's going to take me to pretty much the 0, 0 of the map, and you'll see that you have the 3 different images here. So I can, like, actually they're just sitting at 0, 0 ungeoreferenced. I hit back, go back to my location. So what I want to do is, first thing is, now I want to go ahead and add my georeferencing toolbar. So if I right click in my gray space here, you can see there's a georeferencing toolbar. I click on it, I add it, and it's going to automatically choose the topmost layer here of K23. So you can see here 1987 K23. All right, I can always drop down and choose different layers if I wanted. I usually like docking my georeferencing toolbar, so I'm going to go ahead and dock that here so I can see it easily, and get rid of my layout one for now. So whenever I look at K23 at the image itself, I can see that I have a baseball field here, I have a park here. These things are going to help me georeference. I have interstate highway I-35 here. So this is going to help me find where this is supposed to go on the map. So if I hit back, those are the things I want to look for. I'm going to go ahead and zoom into the approximate area where this stuff is. Let my base map refresh, and I can start seeing, here's the baseball field, here's the I-35. So actually this is not a park, it's a cemetery. That's kind of funny. But so here's the baseball field and so forth. So the first thing that we want to do is kind of zoom in to about the same extent as the picture itself. So if we look back at our picture, you can see here from the picture itself that it kind of covers, from maybe a little bit below the baseball field to about here to this to Airport Boulevard, and here you got this street. So you can kind of see where the extent is with this. And then so what you want to do is have that same extent here. So kind of move this over and say, okay, that seems about right. Here's airport, here's these streets, here's the baseball field, here's the cemetery. And so once you get that about same extent going on, you're going to say, you know what, I want the picture to fit here. Okay, and that tool's called Georeferencing Fit to Display. And what's going to do is just put the aerial photo on the screen. It just puts it there at about the same scale that you have, and this is going to help you in finding your first control points. So you see, if I zoom out a little bit, I can kind of see, of course it's not fitting perfect, but it's there. So I can start using my other tools here, like a shift tool to move my image around. So you can see I can move my image around. And there's of course the scale tool and rotate tool. I normally stay away from those two tools. No point in using them. Just use the shift tool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, okay, here's my Dishfalk field, right? Here it is here in 1987. I'm going to move my hand onto a point on Dishfalk field that I can see on both of them. So I can see here the diamond, the baseball diamond. I'm going to put my hand on there, on the image, click on it, and I'm going to drag the hand back over and put it on top of Dishfalk field in 2012, and then I'm going to let go. And that's going to kind of position, align the photo for me. So the next steps is to choose control points. So the basic idea is that you choose one point on the original photo, the aerial photo from the past, and then you choose one off the base map. And ArcMaps use algorithms to line them up. You need to choose at least 5 points for it to do a really good job lining it up. When you choose these points, it's very important to zoom in. So I'm going to use my zoom tool, and my first point is going to be where I just dragged. So I'm going to zoom in on the baseball field. So after I zoom in on the baseball field, you can see here the baseball field in 1987, and then you can see here by turning off in the table of contents, you see here in 2012. So they're pretty much on top of each other, but I'm going to choose my control point. So I'm going to choose the pitcher's mound. So you see there's this add control point button. So you click on it, and the first thing you want to do is select the pitcher mound in 1987. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to turn off my layer by going back to the table of contents, turning it off. And I'm going to go to the pitcher mound in 2012 and click on that. And that's going to line up those 2 points. Then I'm going to click that image back on and right click the layer and zoom to layer. This can just take me back to so I can see the whole image again. So right now I chose my first point. That was great. Now I need to choose my second point. The thing with georeferencing is that you do not want to start choosing a lot of points right here. I know it's tempting to start choosing points. Oh yeah, click right here. But you want to spread it out throughout the image. So you want to choose points around all the corners and around the center and spread out the error, because there's a little bit of an error every time you georeference. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this street cross section. Street cross sections are great for georeferencing. So you can see here this one, and this is this one. So I can go back to my control point, and what I usually like to do is choose the center of street. So I say here's the center, they meet about there. I do this because roads widen over time. A lot of times projects come in and widen roads. Normally the center stays about the same. So I come over here now, I say okay, there's my same intersection. I go to the center and I click on it. So that chooses my second control point. Right click, zoom to layer. Once you choose 2 control points, your image is going to start really lining up well. You can see here like the roads kind of already start lining up very well. This is good. This is good news. And then what you want to do is keep on working through. So now you can just keep on zooming in on different parts of the image. You can find intersections, add a control point, historic image, base map. And you want to do this a total of 5 times. Zoom to layer. Again, spreading out the images. Be careful, never make your 3 control points in a line or you're going to have major problems. So you want to spread them out. So then here's a fourth control point. I'm going to come out here. And I can see that intersection. I'm going to go just do that intersection right there. Center, click, click. So always historical photo, base map, historical photo, base map. And then I'm going to go and do the 5th control point. I think over here is looking kind of empty, so I'm going to do this one. Historical image. In this case, some of the roads aren't existing, so maybe I'll try this building. Missing. Let me turn off the image and see if that building's still around. This building right here is still around. You see these other buildings got bulldozed for parking lots. Pretty interesting, huh? So let's go with this building right here. So I'm going to say top of that building. And I'm going to do this. Top of that building. Zoom to layer. So now that I have 5 control points, my image starts lining up pretty well. Okay, and you can see here where it's kind of working out pretty well. I still have some control points missing from here, so let's do a 6th one just so we can spread it out. So I'm going to go over here to the corner of this cemetery, and I'm going to use this this T intersection, and I'm going to say okay, the center, click, turn off my historical image, click on the base map, and I'm going to add a 6th control point. It's always good to have lots of control points. If you want to keep on adding control points, no one's going to stop you. It's actually really good for the algorithms. So if I click on now the link table, so now I have 6, I want to see what my error is. I'm going to click on the link table. And this is going to give me a little summary of all the different control points I did. So you can see here my 6 control points, and then it gives me an error, a residual error, an RMS, root mean square error. And you can see here my average residual is 9.2, which is pretty good. This is going to be, I believe, in feet. So that's pretty good residual error. You want to get below 25 in general. Oh no, actually it's in meters. So this is in 9.2 meters, which is really good. But you want to get below 25 meters. That's USGS standards. I usually say to get below 15 meters to play it safe, because there's also some residual errors built into the base map we're working off of. So let's say 15 meters is the best. So we got here 10, that's great. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit save, and I'm gonna save my link table, and I'm gonna go ahead and save it in the same place that the image is. So I'm just gonna go to my S drive, my US Air Photos, and here I'm gonna type in 1987 hyphen K hyphen 23. This is going to save my link. It's going to save my points. I think it's important to save points. It's not a necessary step, but if you're working on a big project, it's always good to save these points so you can save these errors, terms, and so forth. So after you save it and you're happy with it, you're going to say georeferencing, update georeferencing. It's very important that you say georeferencing, update georeferencing. Whenever you say update georeferencing, this is going to put the control points into the image and turn your image into geographic information now. So if I go back to my K23, you can see here now all of a sudden I have a few extra K23 files, including the SDWX. That SDWX is my world file, and that's going to be what I just created, and so that's what makes this georeferenced. Pretty awesome. So let's move on to the next one, K23-2. What's cool is that since we already georeferenced this one, the next one starts becoming really easy because we just hit fit to display. And we can start seeing where the next image is. So the next image is right above this one. So I'm just going to use my pan tool, and I can just move it up. And we can kind of see where this is going. So you can see here this little square here is going to be the same as this square here, where this elementary school is. It's just kind of a zoomed in version of that same photo. So if I go now, I can add a control point here and there. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pan. So I'm going to move my mouse hand on top of that. I'm going to move it down, and I'm going to drop it here in the same spot. That's going to put it in its location. I'm going to turn off my old aerial photo that I already georeferenced. And I'm going to go ahead now and zoom in onto that. And one thing to always keep in mind too in georeferencing is never georeference from old photo to old photo. You're just compounding your error. You want to always stick with the same base map. So that puts that first image in there. So let's do maybe this other corner here. I can kind of see that this corner is over here. So I'm going to zoom in. You can see that road structure right there is this road structure. You see the scale is very different. But after we add in this second base point, the second point, you're going to end up finding the scale correcting really quickly. And you're going to see that the image corrects very quickly and looks very nice. So now I can see that this image is starting to georeference nicely. So I can go through and click and choose the rest of my points. So again, I'm going to go and put in my 5 control points. I zoom in on intersections. I choose the middles of roads. I like the road structures the best to use. They are usually the clearest to find. And then I have a 5th point to do, and I'm going to choose something near the center. So remember old, then base map. What you want to georeference, then what you're georeferencing to. And then you want to do a 6th one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to purposely make a mistake. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to say turn this off, and I'm going to say, oh, I accidentally chose the wrong thing to georeference. Do you see that mistake I made? So this is going to kind of introduce a huge error into my photo by making that mistake. See, so like it started distributing error like everywhere. So if I go to my link table and I made a mistake like that, I can always come in here and say, oh, I didn't mean to do that one. Click on it, highlight it, and then delete it. So that's going to delete that link. If I go back, zoom back in, then I can go and fix it. Another thing to do is like, what if I wanted to click the center but accidentally clicked over here? If you're in the middle of clicking, you can always right click and say cancel point. That's going to allow you to start over quickly. So I click there, I choose my 6 point, zoom to layer. Let me choose a 7th point. So in this case, since our image is a little bit more lower altitude, we're having it actually have a higher error. Some of the older imagery, it's really hard to get really low errors on them. But if we look here now at our link table, we can kind of see what's going on with our error. And we can see our error right now is at 4.52, which is great actually. It's a really low error. One thing you can always do too is experiment by checking on and off these and see what happens to your error throughout the image. This is a great error actually, so this is awesome. So I'm going to hit save. I'm going to save this, and I'm also going to come through here and do the same thing, 1987 K23-2, save, and then I'm going to close my link table, georeferencing, update georeferencing again. That gets added into the image, and it becomes a georeferenced image. And you can see here now I can start overlapping georeferenced files with each other. So you can see here these are two separate images, but they're overlapped on top of each other. Zoom to layer. Oh. Zoom to layer. So you can see here now these two images are overlapped on top of each other. One thing that you can also do now, what we like doing with georeferenced images is that we use it for change detection. So for example, we can come here and see what was happening here in 1987. So 1987, you can see this was an empty lot. If I turn it off, I can see what's happening today. And today is part of the University of Texas at Austin. Pretty interesting. So what was happening here before? And you can see the image, and then now it's a field. So the thing that you're supposed to learn from the imagery is that things change and our land use changes. And imagery, this kind of imagery helps us map these changes out. So you can just see these images. And once you're done, once you say update georeferencing, this becomes part of the image. So you don't need to georeference it again. So for example, if I remove these images from here, next time whenever someone comes and adds data, they click add data and they go here and they say, oh, I want K23. You add it in, it's going to just fall right in place without that error message. So that's how you georeference.